I will discuss the plot of a film inspired by a true story about the youngest soldier from during World War II. This boy is only 6 years old but has already received an award for his service from the army. What is the story of this child's struggle? Without further ado, listen carefully to the plot of the film Soldier from 2019. Serge, still 6 years old, lives with his mother and brother in a small village. At that time, the German forces were aggressively attacking. Serge's father had died on the battlefield, while his brother also lost his life at the hands of the Nazi soldiers. The summer of 1942 witnessed a fierce battle between Germany, famously known as the Battle of Stalingrad. The German forces came and massacred the villagers. Serge's mother, seeing the arrival of the German soldiers, panicked and urged her son to flee through the window. Tragically, at that moment, she was shot by the Nazi soldiers and died. Frightened, Serge ran into the forest without knowing where to go. He cried, thinking of his mother, and continued walking deeper into the woods. All day Serge wandered through the forest until he found a stream and drank from it to quench his thirst. Suddenly, he spotted German soldiers and became terrified, quickly hiding behind a tree. In that anxious moment, he held his mouth shut to avoid detection. With a growling stomach, Serge hoped that the Nazi soldiers would leave some food behind for them. Not long after, the soldiers left, apparently in a hurry, leaving their food behind. Day after day, Serge wandered alone in the forest, trying to survive by eating fruits and drinking dew from the leaves. But suddenly, a missile fell right behind him, causing him to stumble and nearly faint. In that condition, Serge struggled to keep moving. He heard birds chirping and felt that someone was passing through the forest. With faltering steps he tried to hide and dreamed of his mother and brother who were still alive. The next morning, Serge woke up feeling weak from hunger, and as it started to rain, he drank from the rainwater, but it still wasn't enough to restore his strength. When Serge was powerless and unable to walk any longer, he was found by soldiers who were on patrol. When they arrived at the camp, they immediately took care of him and fed him, knowing that Serge was one of the victims of the massacre by the Nazi soldiers. There, Serge was cared for by a beautiful woman named Nina, who always encouraged him to stay cheerful. Seeing the wounded soldiers made Serge feel compelled to help them. Nina reminded Serge to be strong in facing any problems. One day, Mayor Michael came to visit Serge. He told him everything he knew, from the massacre of the villagers to the loss of his mother and brother. Michael then showed his gun to Serge to rekindle his spirit. Michael promised to take good care of Serge. Meanwhile, Nina secretly harbored feelings for Michael, even though Michael always acted coldly. As time went on, Serge grew closer to the soldiers, and one of them gave him a gift of binoculars. This gift reignited Serge's spirit and his sense of patriotism. The next day, the German soldiers attacked, but the army managed to push them back. Michael came to visit Serge again, who had started to see Michael as a father figure because he had never felt a father's affection before. Michael agreed to adopt Serge. However, the German forces suddenly attacked again, resulting in many soldiers falling in battle. Serge panicked as he saw the wounded soldiers and began searching for Michael and Nina. One of the nurses reminded Serge to take care of himself and to help anyone in need, which motivated him to stand up and help the soldiers as best he could. After that incident, Michael invited Serge for a walk. However, they found that the communication center had been destroyed by explosions, making communication difficult. Serge offered to become a message courier, and Michael was very impressed by his enthusiasm. He followed the trench to deliver orders from the mayor the soldiers, and his presence brought joy to them. One day, while exploring the forest alone with his binoculars, Serge was shocked to see German soldiers infiltrating and monitoring the troops behind a stack of hay. He rushed to report it to the soldiers there. At first, the soldiers didn't believe him and thought it was a joke, so they only sent a few soldiers to check it out. But it turned out Serge's report was accurate, and they successfully captured some German spies, as well as securing a communication device. After that incident, Serge received recognition from Michael and the other soldiers. The next day the Germans attacked again, this time with a larger force. The German soldiers launched relentless attacks, hindering Serge's ability to deliver messages until one of the soldiers warned him that the situation was very dangerous. At the camp, Michael and his men were unable to communicate because the cables had been cut, putting them in a difficult position against the enemy. Hearing this, Serge rushed to the battlefield to find the cut cable, and thanks to the direction of an injured soldier, he managed to reconnect the communication line. Days went by, and Serge played with his new friends. However, during their journey, they were suddenly attacked by German soldiers. Michael saw the condition of the village that had been destroyed by the Germans and felt that the situation would worsen because the German troops were stubborn and cruel. That night, Michael took Serge for a walk and talked with him, emphasizing that Serge had to be strong in facing all challenges. But just as they were speaking, the enemy launched another barrage of attacks, causing Mayor Michael to be thrown and pinned under a log. Serge tried to move the log but was unable to. He reported it to some soldiers, and Mayor Michael was ultimately rescued. In short, after that incident, the war came to an end. The soldiers successfully held back the German attacks, and Serge was awarded for his bravery. They returned to a safe and peaceful area. Serge grew up alongside Michael, and the film concluded. I hope you can all take lessons from Serge's life story. Even at just 6 years old, he always remained spirited and continued to fight for his life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button and subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss the latest videos from this channel. See you in the next video.